position they started this so-called adventure in. However, now we can see how much their mental and physical state has changed. The final point was the explosion, where Kane finally showed that he is the god here, and absolutely no one can compare to him and his abilities.
I think we all understand each other now.
After that, several days of Kane's adventures begin that they simply couldn't refuse, and judging by everything, these adventures became way worse than anything we saw in previous episodes. If before some adventures only drained the residents of the digital circus, now they've become completely insane, and the biggest problem is that they couldn't be anything else anymore. I'm sure Kane wasn't intentionally creating such complex and awful adventures, but we'll talk about that a bit later. We were shown that Kinger ended up in a shredder, but of course the most interesting part is Pomni. All the characters were in the cafe, then Pomni disappeared and appeared again. I think everyone has already talked about the fact that back in January 2023, Gooseworks posted the digital circus announcement where it was shown what happened between these scenes. I just want to point out how well everything was done. In this scene, Pomni tries to take a bite of the sandwich she started eating in the cafe, and her return happens in the exact same pose as in the announcement. Now that we've gone through all the so-to-speak punishments, let's finally talk about the real reasons behind Kane's behavior. Looking at the digital circus code, we find out that all torment is supposed to be random. However, here at first glance, we see something completely different. And to understand what's really going on, let's go back to the beginning of the episode. We saw the state Kane was in. He had absolutely no control over himself, and eventually the system got so overloaded that he temporarily shut down. After rebooting, we see some glitches and already understand that something is wrong with Kane. The situation fully got worse when Kane returned to the characters. He wanted to do everything as usual, but another wave of negativity pushed him over the edge. The code that was at the core of Kane broke, and this led to a hyperbolized display of his power. Kane really did want to put the characters in their place and show who's in charge, but if everything was normal with him, he would have just tossed them around a couple times or something like that, but definitely wouldn't have done anything like this. This wasn't revenge, just a way to restore his authority. The further torment became the norm for Kane, and he genuinely saw it as fun. His main goal was for the characters to take part in the adventures and stay cheerful. Technically, they are participating in the adventures and everything else doesn't matter. Although maybe what we actually saw was the true version of Kane, the way he was always meant to be, and the way AI is portrayed in I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. We know that the events of the digital circus take place in 2017, and we also know the age of each character. Kinger was born in 1969, and from what we can tell, he was a pretty gifted kid from a very young age. Basically, you could call this year a key moment for the entire digital circus.